right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are well. Peace, blessings, salutations to those for elect that is out there pushing, laboring, believing, and listening to this truth with our sincerity. All right, and may the blessing and election be upon your houses. All right, the topic of this lesson is we've been scattered. All right, and what inspired this lesson was an interaction that a couple of the brothers had with an individual, all right, that looks like a so-called white man, but in reality was a Jake, man. He came across, other, Israelite groups. I believe it was IUIC, who told him, he called him a heathen, man. They called him an Edomite, man. When in reality, he is an Israelite, man. Right? I want to start off with this right here. This is Deuteronomy 28:64, and it reads, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the world, it's like it from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." And that's exactly what happened, right? Our people have been scattered among the four corners of the world, right? Following after different traditions, following after the ways of the heathen, calling themselves, these other, nationalities, man, calling themselves, these other, heathen names and so forth, man. All right, believing that that's who they truly were, when in reality that's not. All right, because like the scripture says, we have been scattered among the four corners of the earth, man. All right, you got Israelites in North and South America. You got Israelites in the land of Africa. You got Israelites in, Japan, Russia, China, and so forth, man. All right, you got Israelites throughout all four corners of the world, man. All right, because we have been scattered. Okay, that's why we don't solely base it off of your outer appearance, right? We don't solely base it off of the color of your skin, right? It depends first and foremost, all right, on your bloodline according to your father, because the man holds the seed, right, and also the spirit. Okay, and matter of fact, I'm gonna get this first. All right, it's in Numbers, right? Right, just proving that the man holds the seed. All right, this is Numbers 1:18, and the reason they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, by their polls. And when you go into that word pedigree, it goes into your lineage, your bloodline. All right, and matter of fact, we could go into that word pedigree. Let me get it in the blue letter. All right, one sec. Oh, I passed it. All right. Slovakia. Jake clicked the wrong button. Right. Right, and here we go. Right. It says a primitive root to bear young, captures to beget, medically to act as midwife, specifically to show lineage, right? To show lineage, bear, beget, birth. All right, and the point that we wanted is what? To show lineage, right? So, your lineage, right, is based off of what? The your father, right? The seed of your father. All right, and that also goes against it shows you that these Amalekites, all right, these people that are claiming to be us aren't us, because they do it completely backwards according to what's in the scriptures, right? They say your lineage or your pedigree is based off of your mother, when that it doesn't work like that, man. Right? It's based off of the seed, right? If you plant an apple seed in Babylon, you're gonna grow an apple tree, right? If you plant an apple seed in a whole nother side of the world, let's say in Russia, right? You plant an apple seed in Russia, it's still gonna be an apple tree, man. Right? They might have different taste. They might, have a different taste or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, it is still an apple, okay, that was grown. All right. I want to get this also because we have been scattered, and so that we know that we have been scattered because we read the scripture where it tells us we've been scattered, I want to show you a couple people, right? For example, right? Let's look at Stephen Curry, right? Someone may look at Stephen Curry off of face value and may say, you know, he's a so-called, you know, white man or whatever the case may be. Matter of fact, this is a better one. Blake Griffin, right? Someone may look at Blake Griffin right here, and they may say Blake Griffin is a so-called white man. But in reality, this is an Israelite, man. And I believe his father's a Levite, if I'm not mistaken, man. Right? Let's see. Right? Yep, it says ethnicity mixed with African, Haitian, and white ancestry. It said his father, Tommy Griffin, is Afro-Haitian descent, right? So yeah, so Blake Griffin would be an Israelite, man. He is a Levite, man. What? And his mother is a Edomite, right? Caucasian, man, right? Okay. But someone would look at this off of face value and be like, "Oh, that's a white boy," but in reality, he's not. That's an Israelite, man. You know? Oh man, another one, man. Right? This is another perfect prime example, man. Right? Someone would look at this rapper right here, think he's a white boy, right? And even off the pictures, you can see that's Jake, man. You can see it's Jake off the pictures, man. You know, you can see the salt through the pictures, man. All right? Off of how he dressed, all right? How he carry himself, how he take the pictures. All right, he's a Jake, man. And right here, you see a picture of his father. This is from Instagram. He said, I took my dad to some spot, and that's his pops right there, man. Right? His mother, there's a better one right here, right? You can see his mother. His mother looks like a so-called white woman, man. All right? But his father's a Jake. And this is him right here. He's an Israelite, man. All right? These are perfect prime examples of not judging according to the skin tone, man. Not judging on the outward appearance, man. Right? And let me get this too. Right? This is John 7:24. It reads, judge not according to the appearance, but judge a righteous judgment, man. All right? So, like the brother that came up to the camp, who looks like a so-called white man, in reality, he was a Jake, man. Right? The Israelite group he came across, they was through for that, man. They was going completely off by telling him he's an Edomite, man. By calling him a heathen, man. All right? And they didn't know nothing about the guy, man. Right? When we understand the scriptures, we know that we've been scattered. All right? Let's get some other ones, man. All right? Another good one. Bruce Lee. Right? Bruce Lee looks like a so-called Chinese man. A so-called Asian man. But Bruce Lee is an Israelite, man. All right? Look at this picture, man. Look at this picture of Bruce Lee, man. You see the salt in this picture right here, man. That's a Jake, man. That's a Jake. Okay? You see, if you ever see movies, let's see. You ever see clips of Bruce Lee, man? You see on how he moved that he's a Jake, man. Right? Matter of fact, I'll play a little bit off of this. A little bit off of this just to show you, you know, just the characteristics of Bruce Lee, man. All right. Let me see. Let's see if I can fast forward a little bit, man. Some of Bruce Lee, you know, fighting styles and so forth, man. You know, you see how he move, man. He a Jake, man. All right? All the stuff he do, look. Salt, man. Everything he do got salt to it, man. All right? Jake is the salt of the earth, man. Right? There's a couple, you know. Look at this, man. All right? These heathens don't have salt, man. All right? But everything he do, he got salt, man. And that is an Israelite, man. It's a movie Enter the Dragon right here, man. Right? You can't say that this guy isn't a Jake, man. Okay? Look at that. He Jake, man. He Jake, man. Another good one, too, is Justin Timberlake, man. Right? Justin Timberlake, that's a Jake, man. You listen to his music. All right, you listen to the music he makes, man. You can hear he's a Jake, man. Right? You know, shit. You see a picture of him when he younger, man. Look at the salt on this guy, man. Come on, come on. You can't. These are things that is you can't fake salt, man. Right? You can't fake having that, how they say in today's day, having that aura, man, having that spirit. Okay, I'm gonna get one more and I'll continue on, man. George Clooney, man. You know, this is a Jake right here, man. People will look at him and be like, oh, this is just your average white man. You know? But nah, this is a Jake. Okay? When you look at these people's spirit, when you look at these people's aura, man, we see how they, how they make their music, their salt, right? You could tell that's a Jake, man, because you can't fake being Jake. You can't fake the salt, man. Okay? Again, going back to this scripture, right? Judge not according to the appearance, but judge a righteous judgment, man. And that's something that a lot of these other groups do not have, man. Right? They just look at you off of face value and call you a heathen, man, without even knowing if you were Jake or not, man. Right? That's why it's important when we, when we be having these conversations with these individuals that may look like these other nations, we try the spirit, man. Ask you where you from, ask you where your father's from, and try the spirit, man. All right? Because if these scriptures resonate with your spirit, hey, that's a good sign, because these scriptures aren't going, these scriptures and these proper breakdowns of these scriptures is not going to resonate with the heathen, man. The heathen won't get it. Okay? The heathen won't agree with it, man. All right? That's why this Bible is only for the nation of Yasharala, man. The Bible's not for these other heathens, man. And matter of fact, let's get at just to prove that, man. These scriptures is only for Jake, man. Right? It's gonna be in Psalms. I believe it's 147, I believe. Yep, Psalms 147, verse 19. He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord, right? So the Lord is only dealing with the nation of Israel, right? These laws, statutes, right? And commandments, right? Everything that's written in the scriptures is only for the nation of Yasharala, man. A heathen has no business even trying to touch the scriptures, has no business even trying to break down these scriptures, man. When you see these Edomite pastors, man, trying to break down these scriptures, they have no business doing these things, man. All right? Because the scriptures is only for the nation of Yasharala. All right? Salaki, the video got cut out. But, last thing I did read here, was this right here, the Psalms of 147, 19 and 20. All right, again, showing you, right, these scriptures is only for the nation of Yasharala. All right, this is Matthew, the 5th chapter, verse 13. It reads, ye are the salt of the earth, right? Jake is the salt of the earth. Again, like I showed you the clips of, the Bruce Lee, and, I showed you the different Israelite foreigners. Those they have that salt, right? You can see the salt in the pictures. You can hear the salt in the music. You can see it in how they dress and so forth, right? You can't fake the salt, man. And Jake is the salt of the earth. Everything we do, everything that we put our hands to, everything that we are a part of, we make better, right? And that's what salt does, right? When you put salt to something, it makes it makes whatever you added to taste better. All right, and we are the best at everything, man. When you look at the NBA before, they had Jake in it, it was boring, man. But the minute they had Jake in there, you got Jake in there doing crossover moves, doing behind the back passes, doing fancy layups, doing crazy style dunks, ultimately, changing the whole way the game was played, man. Right? They made it better. They made it, better than what it was, man. And that is what Jake do. So when I showed you, these different Israelite foreigners from the George Clooney, Justin Timberlakes, and so forth, right? Whatever they do, they make better, right? They got that salt, okay? This is Matthew, the 24th chapter, verse 31. It reads, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Again, showing you that, we have been scattered throughout the four corners of the world, right? Jake has been scattered throughout the four corners of the world. Okay, like I went into earlier with the first precept, right? Going in, telling you how, we've been scattered throughout the four corners of the world. All right, and I'm gonna get this also in Jeremiah, the 23rd chapter, verse 3, and reads, "And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of the countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase." Again, backing up the point, right, that Jake has been scattered throughout the four corners of the world, right? So time and time again throughout the scriptures, the Lord has let us know that, the nation of Yasharallah has been scattered throughout the four corners of the world, the four winds of the world, right? Going to show you, right, Jake gonna come in different shapes, form, and fashions, right? It doesn't, necessarily matter on the outward appearance of how you may look, right? You're gonna have Israelites that look like a so-called white man. You're gonna have Israelites that look like a so-called Chinese man and so-called Arab and so-called Indian man and so forth, man, because we have been scattered. All right, going back to the interaction that the brothers have with an individual at camp last week, right? He came across a Israelite group, and they told him he was a heathen, right, an Edomite, right, and that was not a righteous judgment because they didn't know anything about the individual. They just went off of just how he looked. All right, again, going back to the scriptures I brought out, right, it depends on one, your bloodline according to your father, because the man holds the seed, right, like we read in Numbers, right, the Numbers 1 and 18, right, the pedigree, depending on the pedigree of your father. All right, and also two, it depends on your lineage, not your lineage, your spirit. All right, so lock it, your spirit. Okay, so the spirit and also the bloodline according to your father. All right, those are the main things to really know. If you an Israelite for real. All right, your spirit resonate with these scriptures. If you're going through the curses. All right, and if your father is an Israelite. All right, going back again, like I showed the pictures of Blake Griffin, Bruce Lee, Stephen Curry, and so forth, right? Some of them individuals, when I pulled up their fathers were so-called black men, their mothers were white, and they came out looking like a so-called white man, but in reality, they're not. They are an Israelite according to their bloodline, according to their heritage, according to their, nationality. All right. But nevertheless, I'm gonna wrap it up with that. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the elect of Israel. With that being said, I'm gonna give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakwadash, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone Ruel. Peace, blessings, salutations to the elect that is out there pushing, laboring, believing, and listening on to the truth with heart sincerity. Until next time, Shalom, in the ball, Kwame Sharala, Shalom.